Ми продовжуємо.
We continue work in the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, and our next topic is Parents for Early Intervention, presentation of innovative services for families raising children with special needs. We have Mr. Wason, international NGO HealthProm from London, UK. Ms. Cholponbaeva, Ms. Nataliia Dobrova-Krol, international expert of HealthProm, Nataliia Alieksieieva, mother of a child with a disability and representative of the Dnipropetrovsk regional charity organization, Angel of Childhood, Anastasiia Kostenko, mother of a child with development peculiarities, and Vadym Miroshnychenko, father of a child with development peculiarities. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. This presentation. I'm grateful to the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, and I would like to thank to the donors who supported this project. This is the European Union, which provides assistance to us. This is the government of Germany, and also UNICEF, the UN Children's Foundation.
So I represent HealthProm. HealthProm is a British non-governmental organization that has worked for 30 years to campaign and to help children, vulnerable children, to have the best start in life. We have understood in the UK about the vital importance of helping children at the earliest possible time, especially vulnerable children. And we have learnt, why a British organization? Because we have learnt from our academic work in the UK two important things. Firstly, that the early years are the time when a child can best be helped. And secondly, how vital it is, if you want to help a child, that you have to help their parents to help the child. So those are two key things. And then through the practice of developing services that help children and their families, we have two vital lessons. The first lesson is the importance of including parents in the development of services, not as the people who will be the clients of the services, but because of their unique expertise in developing the service. Services in which parents have been involved in developing are better services. They will work for those families. So that is one vital lesson which we have brought from the UK. And the second lesson is that good policy is built on research. Good policy is built on evidence. What is the real situation for the people you're trying to help? And that's why HealthProm, with its partners, the Early Intervention Institute in Kharkiv and the National Assembly for People with Disabilities, has worked to develop this research study, which I hope you'll agree is a very exciting study. And I'd now like to offer Nazgul Cholponbaeva from UNICEF the chance to contribute.
Thank you. Добрый день, уважаемые участники.
Good afternoon, dear participants. I would like to represent myself as I'm Nazgul Cholponbaeva. I'm a coordinator of the UNICEF in the early intervention project. I would like to say a couple of words from UNICEF. Children with disabilities are the most vulnerable groups of children in Ukraine. Unfortunately, this group of children is among the biggest risk group in terms of alienation from the family due to big tension and disabilities, and because many families just remain face to face with all comprehensive difficulties imposed by vulnerability of a child. The UN Convention on the Children's Right says that each child has the right to live in a family because this greatly influences the all future life of such a person. That's why UNICEF now has been implementing the program on early intervention. This project is in our pipeline now. In last year, we had started 4 such projects which were targeting not just early intervention services, but actually establishing the architecture of the early intervention in Ukraine. So thus we approached domain ministries, governmental structures. We worked at the community level. We had established early intervention centers, 25 such centers in 5 regions in eastern Ukraine. Thus, we tried to make those services closer to the needy families. And one more important element of our program is immediate work with families. As Armorer had mentioned, the international experience suggests that parents of vulnerable children, they are experts. They are not just the service clients. They are experts and the best advocates for the interests of their children. And that's why we support establishing the network of such parents and to facilitate participation of such parents in decision making, in policy development, in standards development. So today's presentation and today's research is a result of our successful cooperation with HealthProm. I would like to congratulate our researchers in this project, the parents of vulnerable children. Actually, that research was carried out within 6 months. It was a very short time period, and our partners mentioned that usually such studies are carried out within several years, while this time we had just 6 months. But nevertheless, within that 6 months, we managed to carry out huge work, and now we hope that this report will contribute to development of a full-fledged policy of assistance to vulnerable children. And with this, I'm happy to give the floor to my colleagues. Good afternoon. I'm Kostenko Anastasiia. I'm a mother of a child with special needs, with movement deficiencies. The birth of my boy was a big shock for us, and we received no psychological support from the very beginning, which was so much needed. We were unable to get any information, useful information, how to take care about this child, how to promote successful development of the child, and nobody was able to provide us with this information because this is very specific information, while physicians or pediatrists just provided us with the list of medication, while social services were able to deliver some financial aids to us, and that's it. But unfortunately that assistance was insufficient. So I felt myself in a very limited situation, restricted situation, and I tried to find something which would allow my boy to develop properly. And early development, I suspected, was needed. And on the one hand, this was motivation for me, but at the same time, this put me into bigger depression. And at that very moment, I did not even realize how emotional situation of parents is important. So from the very at the very beginning, when we have got assistance from the early intervention center, we understood that that service was unique. At the very beginning, we understood this like entertainment for a child, but very soon we realized that the center allowed us to optimize all the features of our life, to make them more useful for the child and more targeting the needs of a child, like nursing, like feeding, like motivation a child to move, etc. The work was based on our needs. That is, at each stage we decided what was important for our family at that very moment. So this strengthened very much our role as parents. This made us responsible for the outcome, and had shown to us our responsibility for the outcome. Then those trainings which were offered became a psychological support for us. Then information exchange became very important. Just ordinary, regular communication between parents, because we were able to communicate to people with similar experiences and to find out some things in common. And I understand now that these services should be available to all needy people, and our study had shown, our research had shown how this service is demanded in our country. Natalya, I am a mother of Sophia, 14 years old. Sophia, I come from Dnipropetrovsk. Our survey, our research was among parents of children with special needs, and we used participatory approach. And in such service, the study is carried out based on immediate experience of involved children. We covered 2 regions of Ukraine, Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv. regions. Both are located in the east. Both have approximately the same numbers of population, similar infrastructure, but the difference is that Kharkiv region has been enjoying the service for 16 years now, while Kharkiv Oblast does not have this service at all. Dnipropetrovsk region does not have it at all. So first we had 2-day training for experts. We set the objectives. We explained about needed feedback. We developed the methodology. We explained about in-depth interviews. We trained how to approach to our civil servants in all our in our everyday life. Parents stay near children. We split children into categories from 0 to 4, from 4 to 8, and from 8 to 12 years of age. And we have got very interesting feedback from parents. Of course, here we speak about those interviews of parents who did this voluntary. At the moment when we had collected all the interviews, all the raw data, we again had a 2-day workshop where we discussed the results, we discussed our approach to the analysis. We, as an institute, which provided their own comments, to which we did not interfere, but we were able to comment of what we heard. Now we have results of this survey. This is a document of 100 pages. Maybe some civil servants working for our category of children, they might be interested. I hope that even more civil servants will read the first 10 pages of this document, because they reflect the situation in the whole Ukraine. I think this was for the first time when parents participated in such a study, such a survey, and we delivered our expertise, and we also contributed to final findings of this document. It seems to me that this new approach, which was used in Ukraine for the first time, contributed much new to our everyday practice, and many civil servants, many government officials were very much surprised with the results. Thank you for this survey. Thank you to HealthProm, thank you to the National Assembly of People with Disabilities, and to all the partners. Thank you, Natalya. I have a mission to present the results of the survey. I'm Natalya Dobrova-Krol, and I participated in the survey as an expert and as a participant. I would like to confirm what Natalya said, that this is very interesting survey, suggesting very interesting findings. When I've just entered the UCMC, I've got this brochure that the best way to support a child is to support the family of this child. I think this is a very powerful message, but I try to understand whether we have proofs to this strong statement. And looking at the findings of our survey, I decided that you yourself will decide whether this is a well-grounded statement. We tried to, in our survey, to understand what's going on in families, what are the needs of children, what are the needs of these families. We tried to hear these voices, and we tried to find answers to a huge number of questions posed by children, posed by experts, and posed by service deliverers. As to the results, major findings are reflected in this booklet, in this brochure. We have got that findings from different sources, and we verified the validity of those methods by those data by a broad set of methods, getting our information from different sources. By the way, we have got very impressive figure about the number of vulnerable children. The number of children with different difficulties in development in Ukraine is huge. Actually, each 10th family in Ukraine is bringing up a child with this or that disability. And we try to understand what does it mean for the families to raise a child with special needs. What need they to do to ensure healthy raising of those children. And we found out that such families face huge number of problems, and not of those problems are of healthcare nature. We've heard that almost each family faces huge emotional difficulties. Besides emotional difficulties, all the families face a huge number of everyday needs, which put them into the situation of continuous stress, which in its turn influences the situation of a child. Also, we have learned that the birth of a child with special needs disbalances a family and quite often results in the split of a families. It creates emotional difficulties with other children. Quite often such families face very negative attitude from other society, which marginalize them. And of course such families face huge financial programs. Quite often expenses related to special needs of a child results in unemployment of parents, in a situation when they have to stay with the child, to be deprived from pensions, etc. And moreover, many such families, they remain in informational vacuum. They do not know about possible services, they do not know about positive solutions, and they do not get necessary answers. I would like to look at our findings just at general level, and those who will be more interested, you may look at our survey. So let's look closely at the emotional difficulties. We could expect that it might be higher, but we did not imagine that it is 6 times higher than the average population depression level. Just rethink it. Of course, we tried to have a look at the experience of other countries and try to understand whether all the parents raising children with special needs, they experience such emotional difficulties. Yes, of course, but in Ukraine this is 2 times, this emotional pressure is 2 times higher than in the United States or in the Western Europe. Depression, it's not an absence of enthusiasm and joy. Depression is one of the leading conditions of disabilities in the world. It may result in or influence family life, employment, in case it is not treated in right time. Of course, we asked parents what did they think about general services offered by different sectors in our country. The parents explained to us that there is no comprehensive state program aimed at the family needs in Ukraine. And beside that, the level and quality of services delivered at the state level in different cases is insufficient. By the way, this is very moderate formulation. Actually, there is a great abyss great gap between what is needed and what is delivered by the state. Just a moment ago, Anastasiia mentioned that she had received the service of early intervention. And what does this service means for you? There are a lot of people who have sympathy to early intervention and those who are skepticists in terms of it. In order to understand how much this service fits the needs of parents, we tried to assess how this service could be measured and classified. These were the same criteria which are used in international surveys about services delivered to children in early age. So we made a bit courageous step. We tried to compare early intervention service with those services which were considered to be the best, the most efficient ones by parents. Then we had made the list of such services and offered the parents to rank the services in terms of their efficiencies. Then we compiled all the services in one and compared it to the early intervention service. When you look at this table, you would see that the early intervention service was the most efficient against all other delivered services, and what was the most precious content in respect of healthy relations and contacts for vulnerable child. I think it's very important because vulnerable children have the biggest difficulties with communication, and in this aspect the early intervention service was the most efficient among all possible services. And here we should mention this higher result, not only in terms of service efficiency, but also depression. Parents of children getting this early intervention service were 2 times less vulnerable for depression symptoms than parents whose children had not received this early intervention service. Thus, early intervention service, as our survey had shown, allowed parents to overcome these emotional difficulties. It was very important for us to look at different factors to check emotional problems of families, but also to assess what we can do to improve the services, to deliver them in a best possible way. That's why we had included to our report a special section. Of course, we cannot discuss all the aspects, but we can discuss what was the most important for parents.
When getting services from different departments, parents faced they were even traumatized emotionally, and parents said that they need respectful, friendly attitude. Also, there should be professional attitude and coordinated services among different departments. Services should be acceptable financially and also concerning location. And also, it is important to speak about quality of life of all the family, because a child lives in a family, and in order to help a child, we need to help the family. And in this way, we create favorable conditions for the development of this child. So I would like to briefly outline the results and the conclusions. So a child with the special needs, when such a child is born, it brings financial, psychological, and social consequences in the family. And the system of services only partly meet the needs of the families and needs reform. And for parents, not only content, but also the form of the service is important. And they need respectful attitude towards their problems and partner relationship. Also, model of early intervention, it corresponds to the needs of the child and the family, and envisages needed psychological support for the family, and improve social inclusion of children and their families. So these are our results. Of course, you may raise additional questions, and after presenting the main results, maybe we will speak about other important issues concerning this topic. And I would like to give the floor to a father of the child with the special needs, and he will tell us in more detail about conclusions and recommendations based on results we've got. Thank you, Natalya. Good afternoon, dear friends. I am Vadym. I am father of a child with developmental peculiarities, and now we get a service of early intervention in Kharkiv city, and you may see a banner of the Institute of Early Intervention, and this is an organization that provides these services to my family. And I took part in this survey as a parent and consultant, together with Anastasiia and Natalya. So I voiced recommendations elaborated by our participatory team that is headed by international managers, Natalya, and the recommendations are divided in 3 target groups. You may find it in your materials and in the report, and I will mention these groups. First group or block, recommendations concerning formation of the policy and development of the system of services. Second block is the improvement of quality of services, and the third block, recommendations of parents to those specialists who provide early intervention services and support children with disabilities, with peculiarities in development. And you may see it from the name. Our team believes that this research is of interest to the representatives of healthcare sphere, social policy, education, and will help to reform the system, the existing system. And this will be done due to the needs revealed by our research, the needs of the families. So, and in accordance to international experience and recent research and experience that was accumulated here in Ukraine. Also, we believe that this research will be of interest to specialists who provide services to children and their families, and also to organizations and unions of people who advocate and lobby the services and those who advocate the interests of children with the special needs and their families. So I was asked to add some personal details, some recommendations concerning my family, my child. I believe that this task cannot be implemented. Out of 25 recommendations, all are important for my family, and maybe I would like to now mention programs. So journalists should be included in this work, and they should be with us in this way. And we will be glad that these stories are published, and we are really interested in this. So the research and stories of lives, this is an expansive work, and we are grateful to UNICEF support and EU support and the government of Germany that they supported us in this work. Thank you. About the interviews. So this is the instrument of influence on the development of system. It touches your soul. It is really emotional. And people are really moved when they read the stories. So these stories touch people's hearts. And for specialists, for politicians, they understand everything with their mind, but maybe the main goal was to touch the hearts of people. And we believe that the best result can be got when you carry out your research both at the level of the mind, when figures are presented, but also when you touch hearts of people, and when stories of people are told, when parents participate. So I saw when doctors, specialists, they just cried, and they started to have different attitude towards the work they've done. So this is the powerful instrument for positive changes that are needed in the country, in the development of the services for children with the disability. And we would like thank once again to our partners, HealthProm, and that you brought such method to Ukraine. For me, it was know-how, and no matter where I will be, I will try to use this instrument. This is really impressive.
I would like to add, this report includes not just statistics, but a big emotional component. It includes quotations, statements by those people, and you feel emotions reading those sincere statements. And actually, those statements, they strengthen the figures shown in statistics. They clearly show the big scale of the problem. Thus, emotional and statistical data, they will be interesting, useful, and very much demanded by people, I think. Our time is almost over. We have to wrap up. We don't put a full stop, we put just comma. And in future, we will discuss results and further steps. Here you can see this signal copy of our report. Very soon it will be published, and I invite you, encourage you to read it. And via this report, you will see not only the figures, but face the real stories and see real statements by people. And to finish, I would like to read one more quotation about the services of early intervention. I was very much aided with the early intervention service. I came with the tears in very bad emotional condition, and after 6 months I started to smile. I had accepted what had happened and understood that I had to work. I needed to accumulate forces and move forward. I think that the results which we had shown in our survey, they put good benchmarks on this path. Thank you for your presentation. Since there are no further questions, we will finish. Thank you.